Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Write My Dudes interview series. Today, we have a really, really special treat. I am extremely proud to be hosting my friend and one of probably the best teachers that I know, David Morales. David is an Enlace teacher, which is a special program here in the Southwest, which helps Hispanic kids get prepared for and go to college because unfortunately, the rate of brown kids going to school tends to lag behind a lot of other folks. David also has been a soccer coach for girls soccer at Mayfield High School, which is the shirt that he's wearing, and he was both the New Mexico Teacher of the Year in 2016, as well as a recent Golden Apple Award winner, which basically means he's very, very good at what he does. So, David, thanks a lot for
Uh,
coming today, man. I appreciate you.
well, thank you so much for the introduction. A lot of imposter syndrome there, but yeah, been very lucky to be surrounded by the people I've been surrounded with, and for having the students I've had. So they've been instrumental in any success I've had.
Well, David, listen, let's start a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you were raised growing up, a little bit about your family, where they came from? And I'd love to know how you went on a journey about becoming a teacher.
That's going to eat up all our time. Born and raised here in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I am the proud son of Mexican immigrants. My mother was from San Alto, Zacatecas. My dad was from La Colorada here in Chihuahua, about 50 miles south of Juarez. My dad and mom, I'm the youngest of four. I have my older sister, I shouldn't say oldest, older sister, and then my two brothers, and then myself. My parents were very adamant about education and making sure that we had the best possible opportunity. And that drove my father to want to immigrate to the United States. So when in about 1967, 64, 60, 64, 65, 66. They moved to LA with my two brothers and my sister in tow, and they started their life there. After a little while, they decided to move to Las Cruces because my uncle, my mom's brother, was living here already, and it was going to be in close proximity to both my parents that were on the other side of the border. So kind of two birds with one stone, right? Let them get successful with their education, plus keep us close to our family, that's on the other side of the border. So they moved here in 1969, and then in 1971 I was born here. Went to Booker T. Washington Elementary, then Alameda Junior High, then the Mayfield High School. um, Graduated from NMSU with my bachelor's degree, and then graduated with my master's from Walden University. My path in education, as much as my parents pushed and wanted, I had to learn, in Spanish, I had to learn a trancazo. I had to get it beat into me, right? Like I had to make all the mistakes. I had to learn the hard way because I didn't like, and I still don't like when people tell me what to do. Like it's always been a thing for me. So, you know, my parents learned right away that they could manipulate that and use that against me, especially with soccer. You can't do this, you can't do that. Been playing since I was 5 years old, and now I'm in my favorite 50-ish years. So I've been playing for a while, and like you said earlier, but and coaching. So um, what got me into teaching was I was really lucky to have that teacher, right? Mary Underwood at Mayfield High School. Um, and she doesn't remember ever, like the moment that I share, she doesn't remember. Um, but it was a moment that was pivotal in my life, and I have no qualms in saying that she saved my life. I was at a point in my senior year where I wasn't going to graduate. My counselors had already told me, you have to do all this stuff. I was, taking a 0 hour, all six classes, two night school classes to try to graduate from high school. And I wasn't dumb. In elementary school, they did the AES testing. The At that time it was advanced educational placement. They did an IQ test and turned out I was gifted. I remember when they told my mom at our meeting that I was gifted, she like I wouldn't have paid for him. So that type of stuff, right? I remember getting home from that meeting and I'm in sixth grade and I'm thinking I'm something special. And my mom was always really good about managing my ego. And I remember her telling me, she goes, you're lucky you have this huge sponge, but it's going to be worthless unless you soak stuff up, you know? And so having those conversations with her, and then my dad, he taught himself English by ordering records and having them sent to the ranch in La Colorada, and he had a vitrola, the wind up, crank up record players that where he would learn English, and then he became a Ford certified technician, an AES certified, an ASC, sorry, ASC certified technician, and he would write articles for the little like the bulletin that Ford would put out, and he would answer questions, and like he always was a great example. Unfortunately, because of where he came from and because of his English attainment and all that, that limited him as far as his professional career. But the idea was always that I remember him telling me, and I'm sure you've seen him. I shared like all these life lessons that he gave me, and one of them was, you have to put your kids in a position that they're better off than you are. Their life should be better than yours. And because I remember looking at him one day, we were at Christmas or something, and I go, look at the legacy you're leaving. And he goes, well, that was my job. My job was to get you here. Now it's your job to get them even further. And my kids are working on their masters right now and doing all that stuff, which is crazy, right? We had a graduation one year, a year where we had all my siblings. One had somebody graduating with an associate's. We had two bachelor's degree, and we had a PhD, all in the same year. And if that isn't a testament to that, that drive for education, that drive for betterment, that drive to make ourselves more than, right? Because and to honor the sacrifices of those that came before us. I saw a T-shirt the other day. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams come true. That's it, and that's what my kids are going to be, and that's what their kids are going to be, and we got to continue to work that. So my kind of journey into education started as a coach. I would see the kids, and I would think, man, if I could just help one of them not make the mistakes I made, just one. That'd be cool. And then, our friend, I don't know if you remember him, Eric Tufarber asked me, he goes, hey, I'm coaching at Oregon Mountain. It was Oñate at the time. Do you want to be a JV coach? And I said, yeah, that would be cool. He goes, we'll give you a stipend. It's nothing, but, it'll be fun. So I went over there and helped him out. And I remember when he left, he was able to get a job at Cruces High where he had graduated from, and the job opened up at Oregon Mountain. I applied for it, and I remember the athletic director at the time telling me, "If you were only a teacher, we would hire you." And in my head, I thought, "Man, that's it. I think that's what I need to be. I think that's what my role is." You know what I mean? I'm a recovering drug addict and alcoholic. I've been sober for going on 32 years, and I had been sober for about 5 or 6 years. So I had that fresh in my mind, like all the mistakes I had made, all the things I had done wrong were right there. So I thought, you know what? If I could just help one kid, right? Not make the mistakes I made. If I could just help one kid, not think that, just throw your hands in the air and say, F it, it's not worth fighting for. It's not worth doing the hard work. It's if I could just convince them that it is, maybe it's worth it. So I went back to school. You know what I mean? I had drank and drugged myself out of school when I was 19. And when I went back, I was 29, 30.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And my wife had gone back to school. We were both full-time students with 3 kids. I was coaching 2 soccer teams. I was working full-time. She was working full-time. We were on Medicaid. We were on food stamps. We were on all that, using it as a tool to get us to where we are now. And it was simultaneously one of the most challenging times of my life and the most rewarding. I didn't realize how much I loved school when I went back and I did it on purpose. You know what I mean? I wasn't just doing it because I had to. I was there on purpose and I was learning and I was trying to be a better version of myself for not just for myself, but for my family, right? Not just my kids, but for my dad, my mom, everybody. So, went through that and graduated and got the job at Mayfield. Miss Underwood interviewed me, and she was the one that let me know, hey, you got it. That's a separate story. She's the only person that she's the only professional person in my life that's ever made me ugly cry twice. And it's unreal. So um ended up teaching there. I've been there. I'm working on my 21st year right now. I started working with Enlace in like 2008, so or 2000, no, 2006 or 2007. So I'm jumping into like my 19th, 28th year with Enlace, and we've been able to grow the program. Our program is for those kids that want it, not the ones that need it. Our Kellogg Foundation grant mandated that we only service our Latino kids, but now our program, after the first 5 years, we opened it up and it's available to anybody that wants to be there, essentially. So our kids interview the next cohort. So they interview a bunch of kids and they select the cohort. So it's incredibly representative of our district. So the district demographics are reflected in our classroom. We have African American kids, we have white kids, we have Latino kids, we have Mexican kids, we have kids from Guatemala, Nicaragua. We have kids from all over the place, and it helps us build out, right? It's really hard to be discriminatory and racist up close.
Yeah.
It's really hard. So as much as the more we learn about each other, the more we start to realize we're more alike than we are different. So our program's grown significantly. We started with 3 teachers in Las Cruces. We're up to 23 different teachers teaching across southern New Mexico. In Gadsden, we're in Hatch, and now we're in Las Cruces at all the comprehensive high schools. We're at like 5 middle schools. We're at 2 charter high schools. We're at an elementary school. So we're working hard to try to make sure that we get our kids. Our 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 mission, as part of our mission, is to develop not only our kids' academic identity, but their cultural identity,
So David,
however they see that.
let me interrupt you because I have a
Yeah.
specific question for you here. So many young boys in school are basically saying when they think about going to college, fuck it, it's not worth my time.
Hmm.
And that's one of the reasons you see such lower admission rates
Yep.
for boys into college. And yet your program is specifically to prepare high school students to get into college.
So our program specifically looks at getting them prepared for what happens after high school.
Oh, okay.
Now, I'm a big college guy. I am, and for a long time that was the only thing I did. But I had to also come to realize that some of my kids don't want to go to college, right?
Right.
They want to do. I have a kid right now who wants to be an electrician. He
Yep.
wants to be an electrician. I have another kid that wants to be a plumber. And so, like, when you're talking about AI maybe taking over some jobs, it's going to be a little while before the robots can do
Right.
that.
But David,
Yes.
to the point there, even those kids, and I'm a big
Hmm.
proponent of
Yeah.
union trades and all that.
CTE, absolutely.
But if you're going to do that correctly, you still at the very least need an apprenticeship certificate,
You
which
need
means
training.
going to class
You
and
need to
going
learn.
whatever.
So,
And,
so
and, a, and a lot of the research is showing that if you can do that and get your associate's degree at the same time, you're then more promotable. You can then, if you get
yeah.
hurt, you're still good, all those things. My question to you is this, though. Girls don't seem, from the numbers, to have a problem understanding the value of continuing their education in whatever way that looks like, apprenticeship, community college, university, whatever. Yet boys do. What are you seeing there? And how do you talk to them about that need so that they understand moving forward what they've got to do to really get that school that will help them for the rest of their life? Does that make
So we
sense?
Yeah, yeah. Talking specifically about boys, one of the things we always talk about is, what's going to happen after I say your name, because I read names at graduation, and you shake Frost's hand, who is our principal, and the school board hands. When you get to the end of the stage, I want you to be prepared with what happens next. So what does that look like? So a lot of time that we spend is spent on that, like what's next? So I have a lot of kids. Hey, I want to be a mechanic. Great. My dad was an auto mechanic. My brother is. They do really well. But wouldn't you rather be engineering those cars? The great Edward J. Molmos, what's the name? Stand and Deliver.
And deliver.
He tells the kid, you should be designing them, not just fixing them. So having those conversations and planting those seeds and letting them know, like, hey, not only can you do this, absolutely, that's dope. There's a lot of honor in that. There's a lot of pride in that. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that because there's a lot of training that goes into that. Is I don't want you to limit yourself to thinking that this is all you can do because I think that's what we're seeing a lot. I think I see a lot of my boys say, well, this is it. This
Mm.
is all I can do. Or I'm expected to make money. I'm expected to help out in the family. I'm expected, there's this role, this idea that I'm supposed to be the provider and all of that. And so we talk about, like, all right, what kind of lifestyle do you want? And what type of education does it require for you to have the lifestyle you want if you truly want to be the person, that provider, that person that takes care of? Because I tell you what, as an old 54-year-old man, I still have that, right? Like, man, I got to take care of my fam. I got to be able to provide. I got to be able to do that. My wife and I have both worked in the same field for 20 years. And I still feel like I'm responsible for that, even though she's been in there 1 year longer and makes more money than I do. Right. So like, but the idea is in my head, it was so ingrained that, I remember um, after I had stopped drinking and drugging, I went back to school for a summer. This was in 1994. I remember I went to school for a summer. I left my job. I was working at Borman and I gave him my 2 weeks. I went back to school for the summer and I got a phone call from my dad every day. Hey, are you working yet? And I go, now I'm going to school, Dad. He goes, that's fantastic. I love that. But you're a father now. You're a family man. You got to take, and that, like, say what you will, man, but that old man, he got into my head big time when it comes to that, but in the best possible way, right? Hey, you got to take care of, you got to do that. So now my kids have that same idea in their head, but they're trying to figure it out in a way that I think they're afraid to take the risk. They're so afraid of failure that
Mm.
they see failure as, well, I have to do something. I have to do good. They don't see failure as part of success. They see it as the antithesis to success. Does that make sense?
It
Like,
does.
because
Yeah.
failure is a step. It's the stepping stone. You're never an expert at anything at first. It's constant failure that breeds success, like trying to get better, trying to do more. So we talk about that. Hey, listen, that C you get in that hard class is the one that's teaching you the most. How do you get past that and say, all right, what's next? What's next? How can I do what's next? What do I want to do? So, like, I have a bunch of kiddos right now. I will say that in the last this past year and at the end of last year, I've started to see the pendulum swing back a little bit where my boys are interested in, all right, hey, I've applied for all the scholarships. I've done all the things. I want to go to school. We're still at a point where we're like, I'm not sure exactly what I want to do,
Mm.
but I really want to go. That's different for me than like right after the pandemic. Nah, I don't want to do any of that. And the girls were still like, yeah, I need to continue. I think there was a huge PR campaign to get girls into school, and I think it shifted that pendulum. And we didn't pay. I don't want to say we didn't pay attention to the boys, but we thought I think there was an idea that the boys are going to be okay whether we tell them or not.
That's right.
And now I think we need to go back and hey, we gotta let when I tell my boys, hey, you can do this, you can do that, you can do whatever you want. You just have to give it ganas. You got to be able to put it through. Look at me, the guy that shouldn't have done anything is the guy that's in front of you. And then I'm sitting down like I am right now in class, and I tell them, look, this is me working. This is me working. I remember my dad telling me, see, my dad, huge influence, right? He goes, you want to work with this, not with this. He goes, this will give out. This won't. Because I mean, I'm really good at putting in a day labor shift. I can dig ditches, I can pick crops, I can do all of those stereotypical jobs. I go, but I want to be able to work with this. I want to be tired up here, not here.
Mm.
I want to be able to think my way through problems. I want to be able to solve issues. I want to be able to help you. I want to be able to do all that. So I think as a male teacher, as a Latino male teacher, I've put it on myself to be, to be responsible for being a mentor and for being that example, which can be really challenging at times. But I don't know. I don't know if that answered your question, man, but
Yeah,
there
it
you
does.
go.
But I want to dig into this a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
You talked about something that I've been really trying to wrestle with on the project that I'm working with,
Hmm.
which is 70% of valedictorians last year were girls.
Yeah.
And you talked about the programs that were really spurring women on, all the help programs that they get in business and politics and sports and all that. A lot of boys are saying, wait a minute, the girls are doing well here. They are graduating at a higher rate.
Hmm.
They're getting the higher grades. They're going to school. I'm not. Where's my help too? And
So,
I think one of the things that the real right-wing folks have been able to drill down on is they're beating you, they're winning, and they're not giving you any help. And I think one of the things, David, that I want to ask you about is that too. How do you swing that back around so that you're not taking away resources from the
mhm.
girls who still really need it in a lot of different ways, right?
So,
And help the boys out. And how do we get more male teachers? Because that seems to be one of the issues in itself. A lot of boys, it is not uncommon for a boy to graduate from all school and never see a male teacher or role model, maybe the football coach or whatever, right?
yeah.
So how do we really address these problems with the genders without saying to the girls, you are losing?
So, one of the first things I want to address is, well, I don't see it as a programming issue. So, like, I don't see any additional resources going to just girls' activities or just girls' clubs or anything like that, or just girls' tutoring. I think there was a PR campaign saying, hey, we need to get more girls involved because girls, for the longest time, have not been allowed to be part of this.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
It
I
does,
don't
yeah.
think that I don't see it as a like, enlace doesn't target girls. But for like aside from the last couple of years, our classes had become really girl dominant. Now we're back to kind of some balance. So like for the first 10, 15 years, really balanced, starting in like 2018 to about 2023, really strong on the girl side. But now I'm seeing the last 2 years a lot more balance. You're seeing equal numbers, boys and girls. So I think the what we have to do is, hey, girls keep working, keep doing, and all that, and boys, you need to also remember where you come from, remember what you did before, and let's get back at it. Let's hit it. We need guy doctors, we need guy teachers, because there has to be representation, right? The same way we talked about women or people of different ethnicities being at the table, we need to have that, because without that voice, or without being there to listen to those other voices, it does limit us. As far as male teachers, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be kind of biased, because in my department, I mean, across our school, really, down, up and down my hallway, as you look at my classroom, if I look to the right, every teacher on my right, the three classrooms are all male history teachers, social studies teachers. On the left is the math department, and they're split evenly, male and female. Down the hallway in front of me, again, split actually more male than female. So Mayfield has been really lucky in the sense that we have this almost split. We have almost an equal split in male and female teachers. Now, if you go down to the middle school and especially the elementary level,
Right.
that's where you really see it's glaring, the difference. I think at the high school level, you tend to have a lot more parity, but not in the middle school. And the middle school becomes less, and then in elementary, I don't remember the last time I met a male elementary teacher. Like I haven't seen one in the last couple of years. I work with one, our enlace teacher at the elementary, Mr. Hassel. He's male, but like I look around and I mean, if nothing else, it's very, very much skewed on the female side at the elementary level.
So what would you say to guys who might be thinking, hey, I want to do something with my life to help people, and they might consider education? What would you tell them they can get from a career being a teacher?
So I am the king of cliches when it comes to education. It took, you know, who was your teacher? Who was that one teacher?
Oh man, I
Was it Shock?
I had Shock and Smith at Mayfield,
Smith.
who were both wonderful. I actually remember my first male teacher was a guy named Mr. Penn when I was in fifth grade. And he was only
Ah,
with us for a semester, but I remember like this guy's gonna go out and play football with us. Holy shit, this is great, right? You just didn't
right?
have that coming up. But I can name you every single male teacher. There were eight of them through my K through 12 education. I can name every single one of
Wow.
them because they stand out so much. And
Yeah.
I didn't even really think about that until I started writing this book. And then I was like, wow, they really made an impression on me just because they were so rare. But I mean, one of the reasons I went into politics was Jim Smith.
Yeah.
He made us read Locke and Hobbes and Plato and
Mhm.
Aristotle because he was like, this is the stuff that the dudes who wrote the Constitution were writing. You're going to read this shit. And I remember working at
Yeah.
the Taco
That's
Bell,
yeah.
and on weekends and reading fucking Aristotle on my lunch
Yeah,
break,
because
going
that's
back
what
to
they
school.
read. And
That's
it
right.
and if it was
I
good
mean,
enough for
those are the
them,
types of things that I that
yeah.
that had a huge influence on me as a young man.
So I'm telling you, I mean, when you look back and you think about that, my first male teacher was in fifth grade, Mr. Olguin. I'm still in contact with him. He became a mentor of mine. I made sure to keep that connection alive. And then in sixth grade, I started getting more male teachers. And then seventh grade and eighth grade and ninth grade. And then in high school, it was pretty evenly split. Um, but yeah, so if we're talking about what do you get out of this career right now, thanks to the legislature, I can make a livable wage.
Hmm.
We're finally at a place where I'm not doing a girl's job.
Uh,
That was a huge thing, right? Because for the longest time, education, I think the pay disparity was based on people thinking that it's a woman's job, so let's pay them less, which is incredibly unfair, incredibly sexist, incredibly misogynistic. You know, when you look at now where the pay scale is, now you're attracting. Like I'm lucky enough to work with the student teaching secondary seminar. So it's the student teachers from middle school and high school, and I see the split because again, a few years ago, female dominated, right? Like the numbers were high. Now you're starting to see that split, and you're starting to see the split in the arts, which I really love. I really love that. Now you're starting to see male teachers in the arts because I think that's really important that we show because we're built to look at strength and all of that machismo stuff and to see someone be artistic, to have feelings, to be able to express those in ways that are healthy, man, what an incredible gift. What an incredible gift to our kids, to our especially my theater kids, my band kids, our football kids are now interested in getting into those things, because for the longest time, right? That idea that if I'm in football, I can only be one thing, that's starting to kind of fade. And I think this newer generation has really accepted that. As a teacher, what can you get? You could get the sense that you make a difference sometimes. Sometimes. I mean, it's weird because I'll tell you, there's times where it can be a slog, man. You're trying to teach these kids things they don't want to learn.
hmm.
My brother, I had his daughter in my class and my niece. And one day he tells me, it must be nice to have summers off, right? It must be nice to have all these breaks. And so I waited for him to finish and I told him, listen, I want you to get your daughter and 30 of her closest friends and teach them about something they don't want to learn about and make sure they learn it at a high enough level that when you test them, you can prove that they learned it. And he stopped and he goes, nah, you need the breaks. Because, yeah, right? So, I got this letter from a kid, and it's hard, because I can't be their friend. I'm the guy that has to tell them, listen, man, because if I don't want them to make the same mistakes I made, I have to tell them, I have to expose that. So my kids will tell you that I ask them, hey, do you want me to tell you what you want to hear, or do you want me to tell you the truth? What do you want from me? Am I fixing this or am I just listening? And so they'll tell you, like, if they ask me, hey, this is going on, what do you think I should do? All right, here we go. One, pull your head out. What are you thinking about? How is this, what you're doing right now, going to influence your future? Because every decision you make right now is going to have an impact later. What kind of impact do you want it to have? On the flip side of that, don't let a temporary emotion make a permanent decision.
Mm.
Come on, what are we doing? Right now, you feel like you don't fit or you don't this or you don't that. Right now, you're in this part of the book. When you open up that book, you're in the first 14 chapters or whatever. I'm over here in chapter 50. I kind of have an idea of how your story is going to turn out based on what decisions you make. So I'm trying to help guide you into making better decisions. I go, listen, you can go to school, and if you decide it's not for you, great, but at least you've had that experience.
Mm.
You're not going to look back and say, oh, what if? But if you don't do it, if you're not set up, I have a kid who's already done maps, getting ready to leave to the Navy, oh, Marines. Sorry, you'll get mad if I say that. He's going to go to the Marines. Great kid, good heart, hard as nails when he needs to be, soft as a pillow when he needs to be. I love that. He can manage that. He's doing well. But I told him, hey, you're going to need to fill out all these applications. I need you to either fill out the NMSC or DACC application. I need you to fill out all these scholarships. He goes, well, mister, I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to go into the military. Cool. You walk to school, right? And he goes, yeah. I go, what if a bus hits you
Mm.
between now and then? Ah, why you got to be like that? No. If I'm don't take care of you, this is what love looks like. Love doesn't look like, oh, mijo, congratulations, you're going. This is what love looks like, making you do things you don't want to do because I know they're what's best for you. So that's a way of modeling what positive love looks like without it being Pollyannish. You know what I mean? I hate it when people tell me stuff like, oh, it's Pollyanna. Oh, all you do is coddle the kids. And I go, ask them. And so, like, now they're like, yeah, I talked to him and he said you let him have it. And I go, well, yeah, but no, it's, hey, what do you want? What do you want out of this experience? Who are you building for the future? I have boys who want to have girlfriends and wives and all that. And I go, are you building the best version of yourself for that person that you want to be with? I go, I don't know who that's going to be, but are you building that? Are
You
you
know
going to
that
be worthy of them?
Diego Luna, the ball
Yeah.
player, the
Yeah.
striker for Real Salt Lake. He plays for the U.S. national
Yes.
team. He recently did an article where he talked about going to mental health therapy.
Yes.
And he was just depressed as hell, would always doom scroll on his phone all night. He was
Hmm.
playing down in El Paso and was just depressed as shit. And
Yeah.
finally, when he got to Real Salt Lake, his brother got him to go to therapy. And he said, I was so glad I did it. I became a better professional. Like I scored my
Hmm.
first goal literally the week that I went after therapy. And like 7 months later, I'm the rookie of the year. But he also said this, he's like, I have a son and I cannot be a good husband and a good father if I don't have my act together. If I'm depressed all the time,
Yeah.
doom scrolling all the time, angry all the time, I'm not the father and husband that I
Yeah.
want to be. And so that's interesting that you're saying that with the
Yeah.
emotions. So yeah.
So like those type of things are what I get out of it. That's what fills my cup. And then to have them come back and it's rare. Like if I tell a kid like, hey, if we do an activity in class and I ask them, hey, how was that? Give me some real feedback, and they go, yeah, it was all right. That's high praise for a high school kid. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, I hold it in. They walk out, yeah, I do all of that, but I understand. I can't. They are in a place in their lives where, hey, they can't be too cool with me.
Yeah.
They can't be because I'm on the other side. I'm a teacher. But once they realize that I'm on their side, all of that melts away. All of that. I have kids who are on the football team. They'll walk out of the class and, hey, Morales, love you. Hey, mijo, you are loved. I used to tell my kids when I first started teaching, I would tell them, hey, I love you, man. And I thought, yeah, I want to let them know. They got to know. And then I thought, my daughter's in high school now. How would I feel if their social studies teacher was telling them they loved them?
Mm.
That sounds a little creepy. So I started saying, hey, I love you in a school appropriate way. But that's way too long. So now it's morphed into you are loved. You know what I mean? Hey, you are loved because that's all encompassing and it's not just me.
So,
I want you to think about the people in your life. And so what I've gotten out of it is when they walk out of the classroom and you are loved. You are loved, and they'll tell me stuff like that, and they'll share their lives with me. They'll tell me stuff, and I tell them, look, we can be friendly, but we can't be friends because I still got to be able to put my foot in your ass if you act up. Your friends do not give you consequences if you break discipline,
yeah.
because discipline and consequences are two different things. Discipline is doing the right thing at the right time for the right reason. Consequences are what you get when you don't do that or when you do that.
Brother,
So,
I was wondering, I got two more questions because we only got about
yes,
15 minutes left.
sorry.
No,
I
no,
get
you're
this. I
great.
told
No,
you.
this is great. I want to know about the cell phones and how you are working with young people in general about putting those damn things down once in a while because so much of what we're seeing, men are four times more likely to kill ourselves than women.
Yeah.
And when you see all of the online addiction, all
Hmm.
the research is saying the more time you get sucked in to scrolling and getting pissed off and conflict and the stuff that keeps you there that allows
Yeah.
those
Hmm.
companies to sell your attention to the highest bidder, which they want, the less happy that makes you, the more angry that makes you,
Hmm.
the more depressed it makes you. And then these AI girlfriends that are coming out,
Yeah.
that's really scary too. And so how are you working with these young people and the boys, but this is a general question because it happens to
No.
girls too, about controlling that online life and trying to keep some kind of reality situation for themselves because that's eventually what makes us happy, gives us that connection, allows us to stay healthy,
Yep.
those sorts of things.
So luckily our district came in and we actually have a policy this year where we're allowed as teachers to phones are locked out, right? So at middle school and elementary, they're completely done. At our school, like we have discretion as teachers within the classroom. In the hallways, they're not supposed to have them. They're not supposed to have them out. They can have them out about before school, at lunch, and after school. During the passing periods, we're supposed to let them, go like, hey, stop it. I'll be honest with you. A lot of times we don't. They're good at what they do, man. They're talking on their phones and they don't even have to have them out.
Right.
But in the classroom, it's great. The policy has given us enough teeth where I never really had a problem with them because if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, they're gonna have a hard time being on their phones. And so one of the first things we talk about is, what does respect mean? And if you're on your phone and you're not listening to me when I'm giving instruction, that's a lack of respect. So like we start talking about how do we define it? Kids will tell you that for them, the definition of respect is being seen, being heard, being valued for who they are, right? If you talk to the adults in a lot of situations, it's about you need to obey me.
Mhm.
That's what respect looks like from our side. And if you obey me, you're respecting me. So I have to kind of modify that. So when we start talking about phones at the beginning of the year, it's listen, I get that you have a life. I get that your mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever's going to text you and you need a reply. Great. Take care of it because that's what I expect you to do as an adult. But if you're only on your phone while I'm talking, while we're doing things and we're taking care of business, then that's a disrespect not only to me, but to this class and what we're trying to accomplish here. So you need to make a decision. So I think a lot of times we tell kids not to do things without giving them the reason behind it or why it matters. And so it's you tell me not to do something like I said at the very beginning of this. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Because forget you. Don't tell me what not to do. But if you explain to me, hey, this is what it looks like, this is what it sounds like when you're doing that. And if you really want to be part of this, you got to give that part up. I go, you got to meet me in the middle. If you have an important call, step outside. Just let me know. Make eye contact and say, hey, I got to take a call. Cool. Don't take forever out there. Don't abuse that privilege. Don't take care. At the end of the day, I still have to be the authority in here
Hmm.
because your safety is based on what I do in here. So I need to know where you're at, what you're doing, and not because I distrust you, but because you take off, you go somewhere, somebody from your family gets in an accident, they call you over the intercom, and I don't know where you are.
Mm.
That's not fair to me, man. And when I explain it that way, almost every single kid gets it. Are there times where I have to say, hey, put that phone away? Yeah, absolutely. But those are fewer and far between, especially if I'm doing what I need to be doing, right? If I'm engaging with the kids, if I'm moving through the room. There are days like last 5 minutes, hey, you guys could be on your phones, knock yourselves out. That gives them that 5 minutes as opposed to the 90 minutes that they usually would be on trying to figure out why her guy is not texting her back or why his girl is not texting him back. But I saw them in the hallway with somebody. Yeah, nah, because they make mountains out of molehills right away because
Right.
they're still developing that frontal cortex to make accurate and valuable decisions. So it's our job to train them that way. We're really good at consequencing kids. We're not as good at giving them the reasons why they shouldn't be behaving certain ways. So I think when we do that, not only with our boys, but with all our kids, but especially our boys, because I'm very logic driven. Like, hey, this makes sense to me.
Right.
If I when I do that with my boys, they tend to get it a lot faster. With my girls, I tend to give a lot of different examples so that they can latch onto the one that best fits their way of thinking. So I can differentiate the examples so that they can get that. And even that helps the boys too. But doing that with the kids eliminates the need to be on the phone so that they can start having conversations. We actually just did our youth action research conference. You've been to it before. And one of our groups talked about how we are losing our social skills because we just want to look at our screens.
That's right.
So in our class, guess what we do? We develop opportunities to be able to socialize. So we talk about that. We do an activity called Circle, which is one of my kids' favorites, which I can't stand because I always freak out because what are they going to say and what am I going to have to do? But they love it, and they love it because um, it gives them the opportunity to learn about each other in a safe environment, and they get to decide how much they're going to share. It's not something that's forced upon them. They can skip if they want to, but if the questions are good, they're going to answer them. You know, if the questions are solid, if you had a box, all right, with every memory that you've ever had, and you opened it up, which is the first memory you're looking for?
Are you asking me?
Damn, right? Damn.
That's
Now
heavy.
you're like, ooh, because now, and so like me as a teacher, on the flip side, I'm going, oh shit, I got to be ready. So we have a set of ground rules. We talk about them at the beginning. We have two golden reminders. What is said in circle stays in circle,
Mm.
but not always. If you are hurting yourself, hurting others, or someone is
Right.
hurting you, it is my legal and moral
That's right.
obligation to make sure somebody hears about it. So the kids know if you're going to share something, you say something that makes me think anything, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to take you somewhere. I'm going to do it. I don't care if you hate me for the rest of your life because I'll be able to sleep at night because I took care of it. If I don't and you do something,
Yep.
and that opportunity for our boys especially gives them an opportunity to cry, gives them an opportunity to share. Not at the beginning, it takes time, but eventually if they feel safe enough, they will share those things that make them hurt, which lets them let it out. that doing that, if it happens one time, all of a sudden the phones become secondary because I want to be in the moment with this.
So we got about 10 minutes left, and I want to ask a question. And I ask this to a lot of the people that come on here that are husbands and fathers, because I am currently neither.
Yeah.
And so much of what you see about gender conversations in society right now are about this conflict between men and women, but also different understandings of what a relationship should be. So a lot of young people today, if you look at polls, most men in society really want a wife, really want a house, those sorts of things, but they make their mental and emotional health as like zero on the list of what am I doing to be successful. On the other
Yeah.
side, you see women who view their careers a lot more important than they used to, whereas, hey, I just want to be
Hmm.
a mom. That's actually pretty low. Even on conservative women's
Yeah.
lists, it tends to be a lot lower than the career and moving forward. And then on the flip side, you have people a lot of times in our political leadership now saying women shouldn't have the right to vote and that the job of you have is to be a baby maker and a homemaker, and that's your only job. You know, the vice president basically said the only role a grandmother has is if she can't
Yeah.
have kids anymore to help raise the grandkids, that sort of thing. You've been married now for over 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Close to 30?
Going on 30.
Yeah. How do you attribute the success of your marriage as a partnership? What have you done to make that work?
All right. First and foremost, um, one of the qualities I was looking for in somebody I was going to spend the rest of my life with was somebody that was going to be intelligent and could challenge me intellectually, right?
Okay.
Ask the right questions, challenge me, and also be able to make me laugh. My wife does all three all the time, all the time. She'll tell you that the reason we've lasted as long is because I've learned that yes, dear is a wonderful statement, that she's right more often than I want to admit, and that she knows when to ignore me. So, and that's, I'm telling you, you know, we in talking with other couples and all that, my wife said that she was talking to a colleague who's brand new in their marriage, and and they're learning each other, right? And it's hard, it's tough. You know what I mean? Marriage is a lot of work. It takes effort. It's not something that just happens. My wife is the love of my life, and it takes work all the time because man, sometimes, oh my God, I got to go into the other room. But she was asking, well, I have to do this, I have to do that, I see David, he takes care of it. And my wife had to stop her and say, stop. He didn't pop out of a box like that. That took a lot of training. And the same thing with my wife. We've assumed roles in our relationship, not because they were dictated by society, but because it fed our strengths, right? So I take care of the finances because that's what I do. You know what I mean? I pay the bills, but then I have to like I'm like a treasurer of an organization, and I have to provide the report. Like, hey, this is where we're at, this is what we're doing, this is where all of this. And she takes care of the home and buying the stuff. And like I don't know that because I don't that's not my strength. Now, we both know we could survive without each other. Like I can do that work if I needed to. You know what I mean? I'm the bathroom cleaner. That's my role. I do that, man, because I do it well and I clean. And she does a lot of the laundry stuff because she's good at that. And I'm the guy that leaves the doom pile for later. You know what I mean? So we've kind of managed that, but it took that partnership to, hey, in front of our kids, we always agreed. But then we would go into the room and we would knock heads. We should do it this way. We should do it that way. We should do this. But we always provided a united front. And she's like, I told her the other day, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. And she goes, that's weird. I would have thought you would have said the kids, but I told her without you, I don't have them. You know, I've been really lucky. And I listened. And when she wanted to go back to school first, before she's the one that planted that seed in my head. and I was all about that because I wanted a partner. I didn't want somebody to be submissive to me. I wanted somebody that would challenge me because I saw my mom as a strong woman. I saw my sister as a strong woman. My sister has her own degree. My mom was a homemaker, but I understood like where things landed in my house. Same idea. Like, hey, my dad does this part, my mom does this part. They seem to work it out. They don't always get along. They argue, they bicker, all of that. But I think that's what kept them growing. It wasn't about, becoming complacent with each other.
Mm.
I still challenge my wife, and she challenges me all the time. All the time. All the time. You've talked to her, you know what she's like. But I wouldn't have it any other way. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have it any other way. So if I had advice for new couples, for somebody that's in that position that wants, the traditional wife that just, submits to her man, I think you're going to get bored pretty quick. And I
Mm.
think she's going to be bored pretty quick. I go, because if that's the roles you've chosen for each other, great, knock yourselves out. No shame, man. I don't marriage shame anybody because I don't know what works for everybody else. But for me, I need that. And I need somebody that is strong-willed, who is hardcore, who is willing to fight for what she believes in, because I was lucky enough to be surrounded by women growing up that were like that. So I think that helped kind of guide me to find somebody like that. And I did. And I was really, really blessed.
Well,
And
David,
my
brother,
daughters are like that. Mm.
well, listen,
My
man.
son is too, though. My son is too. My son, like, we talked about it not too long ago. He started falling into like all the what's his name,
Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate and all of that stuff. And I told him what happened, and I go, how did he goes? I don't know. I was just lucky. I was just lucky. He's very progressive. He's very understanding. He's a partner with this girl, and with her, with them, because they use the pronouns they, them. So that's been something new for me.
David, this has just been wonderful. A lot of pearls of wisdom in here. Super appreciative of your time. Thanks for all of the advice, all of the wisdom that you shared. And I just really, really appreciate you willing to be able to part that knowledge like you do in your classroom to the folks watching this
Thank
and the
you.
folks reading it. So thanks, man.
Sorry I talk so much. It's just natural.
Yeah, I know. I knew that coming in. Thanks, everybody. Hope everyone has a wonderful day.